Okay, welcome everybody to the town board work session. Today is Tuesday,
Nope,
I'm sorry,
Wednesday.
Wednesday, I knew it was May 16th, today is Wednesday, May 16th, 2018. We rescheduled the meeting from yesterday due to the severe thunderstorms and possible tornado that came through last night.
Okay.
So, first thing on our agenda is our tree preservation law.
Yes.
The discussion of the public comments, we have Steve Coleman here. Our
And acknowledge that we did receive
coordinator.
via email, it was probably early this morning from Victoria, some more comments.
Victoria and, there's like
Yeah, there's about 20 some odd people,
26
25.
people have signed on to
Right.
this. And I haven't had a chance to review those at all yet, so.
I did go through it, it's it's a continuation of the same memo that was produced, a couple of weeks ago. And, there really isn't anything that I think, needs further discussion. I mean, we've discussed each of those points previously. And, I think we've taken what we could and put it into the proposed amendments. The only significant change from last week was we added a definition for structural defects, included in the ordinance to just clarify that.
That's
Katrina and the Waves, yeah, don't, that's a great song.
You were slow though, right?
I said it to her before and I heard it.
Victoria and the group that did it, I mean,
Just
they,
gotta call 203
one of the things they wanted to do is to make, the legislative intent, and they've added, a few sentences, but, the way, when the intent was written originally, it covers broad categories, and what they did is adding more specificity, which frankly, I'm not sure is really needed for the type of ordinance, because it covers those topics, it just doesn't go into great detail.
Can I ask a question? What's our timeline on this from here? So I know Victoria was planning on attending last night and
Okay, so
Well,
let me
public
just,
comment is
so the timeframe was that all public
Right.
comments were supposed to be submitted to the board by noon last Friday. Right? Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, you closed the public hearing and you set a date to receive public
Written
comments.
comments.
And then you noted that you would be discussing those comments at
Right?
I guess this board meeting.
Yeah, we kept it open for that
Right.
purpose, and we've had 3 public sessions where
Right,
people,
and then,
townspeople could come.
right, so the point was is that we were then going to take and circulate it for 2 weeks, so that the public had a full opportunity to then review it, because we were hoping to have a vote on the 29th. I have to tell you, just because we're passing this version of the law, it doesn't mean that we can't make
Yeah.
other additions to it and tweaks and edits and changes along the way, but at some point, it's never gonna be perfect for everybody. So
Right.
it's just the board's decision as to,
And keep in mind, Jill, we obviously, well, say Jill's talking, but we took into consideration some of the comments and built them in already
Right.
and addressed them. So they were viable comments. Sorry.
So we're not prohibited, so if she submitted written comments past our
Deadline.
date that we
You can
set,
accept
we
those,
get
of
them
course.
accepted.
Yeah,
No, we will.
yeah,
We did, all right.
yeah, so,
That's
and
fine.
we're good with it, but it's just a matter of, if this was, what are the purpose?
From my perspective, I think we've really tightened up, the ordinance. I think it's much clearer, each section for communicating, what the requirements are. And I think it's a, pretty balanced ordinance. It's still very strict, but it's, I think it, gives, a little bit more flexibility to the average homeowner, and, and we have good safety, mechanisms in place with the tree replacement, and, it really is a tough, threshold to meet when, reviewing it. But I think it still also balances the rights of the individual property owner to still manage and care for their property.
one question that, there was one issue that they had raised last week that I did think sort of warranted a conversation with you, which is that several times they brought to our attention the fact that the tree ordinance currently says that if you take down 3 trees, that you need to notice the neighboring property owners. And I understand that from a conceptual perspective. They requested changing it to a tree. And in my mind, if you take down a tree in the middle of your property, even if even if it is such that it requires a permit, I can see where it being in the middle of a 1 acre lot, gee, I have to notice all of my neighbors, that doesn't necessarily seem right to me. On the other hand, if you take down a tree, which is on the sort of line between your neighbor's property and your property, and it rises to a point where you need to have a permit, I can see where that might be an example of a time where you would wanna give your neighbor some notice. And we've discussed before that we would do that just sort of as a natural kind of good neighbor type of thing to do, but not everybody thinks to do that or has a great relationship with their neighbors. And I'm wondering if this is a place where we should specify a difference between the buffer, that residential buffer zone versus the middle of the property. So if you're taking down a tree that requires a permit in the residential buffer zone, noticing the neighbor that's right next to that zone seems reasonable to me.
So
Can I ask
to
a question though? The buffer zone is not a requirement,
No,
It's not
right?
defined
It's not
here.
a,
It's not a zoning.
it's not a zoning requirement, you have to
statutorily
have a
defined.
buffer zone. So,
it's totally discretionary and it means different things to.
But it's
Right.
it's a defined term in this legislation.
no, I know, but I'm saying there's no requirement to have a buffer zone, like you don't have to have any shrubbery between your neighbor and your,
I don't think
between
I
your
don't think it
property
has
and
anything
your
to do
neighbor?
with the shrubbery, it's just the distance. So it's in this law, it's just saying it's within 25
but-
feet if it's a
Right,
half
but my
acre.
point is that if there's no requirement to maintain a buffer zone,
Right,
It's just
in
defining
terms,
the buffer
it's
zone.
just, then the difference between, realistically, the property difference between taking down one tree in the middle of your property versus taking down a tree on the edge of your property shouldn't make a difference. It does for visual purposes, I know, but I'm trying to find the balance between a property owner who really
Yeah,
doesn't want
yeah,
that tree
yeah.
there and, why do it could cause a lot of problems.
I think also from a practical standpoint, and you can do it, you could come up with a law that says within the regulated buffer area for one tree, you'd have to give notice. But to then define that it's within, whatever it is, 25 feet of a property line, you're gonna require someone to get a survey for one tree. Because that's how Steve would have to verify to know that it's measured 25 feet from the property line, is through a survey.
Because we don't have any mechanism now to check, property lines, it's based on surveys.
but you're already using that term, the
Well, we're
regulated
using-
buffer zone,
we're
you're using
using
it
it
to
in it, but
distinguish
it's-
between the 4-inch diameter versus the 8-inch diameter.
But we're not verifying the exact distances, we're looking at it, from a practical standpoint, if it's, right on the property line, obviously it's gonna be in the regulated landscape buffer, but we don't require a survey or to have a survey located. The challenge, because I remember last time we amended it, the same question came up and they felt that, they wanted to still provide the rights to the individual homeowner to manage their property, and they felt that 3 or more trees reached a level where, out of common courtesy, they would, notify their neighbors.
Right.
They felt less than that was
Yeah.
too much
Well,
of a.
It just-
realistically,
sort of-
no one's gonna pay for a survey, like, if the
No,
difference
not
is,
very true.
pay for a survey to not go notify your neighbors, it's a hell of a lot cheaper to just notify your neighbors than have to pay for a survey to say, no, I don't have to do it. But
Yeah.
I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
it's just,
I mean, it's like
I'm
it
trying to
just feels
find
to
the
me like-
balance
like-
between,
3 trees that are in the center of my lot that don't affect my neighbor
we
at
just-
all doesn't.
Right, and we discussed this, and I
Yeah,
brought this up
right.
multiple times,
Yeah.
with the one tree that
Yeah,
provides
right.
the coverage, but what it boils down
Right.
to, unfortunately, my understanding, especially from Nick, if I'm not saying it correctly, it's, at the end of the day, it's, that person has the property right to take it down. So you're gonna say, no, who are you to say you can't do something on your own property because I'm enjoying the shade that it provides me for my own good, even though you don't want it there for whatever reason. I mean, who are you, when I say you, I don't mean the person.
It's like
Who's the
legislating good, it's like
neighbor?
legislating good manners. You
So,
just-
I'd like to think that there's a good, most people are, but
cause even if you notify your neighbors, right, and they say, oh my god, I don't want that
What are they
tree
gonna
taken
do?
down, what are they gonna do? Just, it's,
Their only recourse
they
is
can
to
appeal, but what are they gonna appeal? they can still take
So
it
they
down,
appeal,
but-
no one
But-
happens.
To the
but-
Environmental
no, but they're-
Conservation.
they can reach out to you before a determination is made. So
The
you've
neigh-
got an
the neighbors?
application,
Well, the
they
neighbors
receive
can call,
notification,
yeah.
the neighbors can call you and say, but Steve, listen, this tree, like, you know, it's the only shade that I have, otherwise the morning sun
that-
is gonna come
that's
So
through
the
my dead
response is
window.
plant a tree on your own I mean, again, I'm not saying cows.
Yeah.
Why do I need that, I don't want the shade from the other side blocking, cause I wanna grow a garden there.
And that's the exact issue that we run into is often
So now I
the
can't grow a
neighbor
garden.
that's complaining does not have adequate screening. If you're looking at a buffer, they
Yeah.
have lawn or they don't have any trees, they're relying upon the neighbor to do that. And is that fair to the property owner that wants to move it? Usually, we move it for a legitimate reason or, you know, there's some structural defects or something with it, so. You know, I mean, how do you balance, you know, that and I mean, if it's a tree in fair condition or better, they will do replacement, and most
Right.
people are still gonna wanna screen, you know, and do it around the buffer of their property, they're not necessarily gonna wanna put trees, you know, in the middle of their property, so,
Yeah.
you know, it is being replaced in some respect, you know, but it doesn't address the neighborhood, they don't have any buffer, is it fair to?
My view at this point, at least, is that there are things that we should address, but it shouldn't be holding this up to move it forward, which are, for example, the issue that you just addressed, which I've addressed before. The issue of clearing and the issue of, but no better way to describe it, sort of zoning, that's not the right word, but as Ms. Manchurian came in and said, you know, different regions and different areas of towns have different needs. And that's, and one thing that she brought up, which I think is also important, and I think we have to figure out how to work this in. I don't remember where she got it from, but she had mentioned, you know, the biodiversity areas. That should play a role in what we're doing in terms of whether it's steep slopes,
Absolutely.
wetlands, trees, and there needs to be some means by which, and maybe it's through different statutes or it's one overreaching one to address that. Again, I don't think we should stop now and keep this bogged down for 3 months as we figure it out, or a year as we figure it out, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
We should move this forward and keep that on the table, how we address those issues.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I actually went back and took a look at the Croton to Highlands biodiversity study, just because I was interested to see if they had any language in there that was specifically pertinent to trees, and it actually doesn't. I mean, it has
Right,
a
so
lot of
maybe a
language
much
that's
louder, broader,
broader.
maybe that's just the
Right.
answer, we have to somehow bring that language, if it's not already there, and it may
Yeah.
be, and part of my ignorance, bring it to the town
Yeah.
on a broader picture.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we did, when we did the environmental overlay district, you know, it was based on, you know, the open space studies, and we, you know, focused it more on water quality and wetland protection.
So at some
Yeah,
point,
but that's an added layer that is put over the 2 acre zones for the east and west, you know, so it gives additional performance standards and requirements, so, you know, in theory, if you did a biodiversity study or we identified areas where, you know, there were significant trees or, you know, significant communities, you could do like an overlay and create some additional standards that would apply to those specific areas within the town.
so my
Yeah,
ask,
but that I think is way beyond the scope of, you know, the
so
tree ordinance.
my ask is, let's move this, can we move this forward collectively, which I don't think anyone's objecting to? And doesn't have to happen tomorrow, and you may have provided some of this before, and I apologize, but maybe you can just shed some light on this in the next month or two when you have a second to breathe, because I'm sure you're extremely busy, especially now with
More
change of
trees coming.
seasons, yeah. So, but I think it's important for us to see what that means, so we can understand how do we protect these more fragile ecosystems and areas.
I think part of it is identification first, I mean, you know, I'm not sure that I would agree that there's, you know, there's certain areas in town that have more environmental significance, you know, but, you know, when you look at the whole perspective, that, you know, the tree ordinance really does address a lot of those
Yeah,
issues.
it's tree ordinance aside, I'm talking bigger, broader
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah, but if you wanted to pursue looking at, you know, more biodiversity
Yeah.
and, you know, natural
Yeah.
area protection, I mean, that's something that would be very worthwhile.
That-
It does
that's my point.
require- Does require a lot of study and analysis to get the data.
So let's move this forward, get this
Yeah.
churned out. We're holding it for another week, is that, we have one more week?
So the 29th is when we were gonna
So-
have a vote on it, so I'm sorry, I have to set the record straight. Christina has that comments were on the 18th, which I did as well, but I also had comments due on the 11th, so I
Whatever it is, if someone comments
apologize.
last
Yeah,
night.
any
then
comments,
tomorrow's
we're
still-
accepting them, I just want that to be clear on the record, that
Okay.
the comments that we received late last night are, I just
Great.
asked Christina to please
Thank you.
make sure she actually had not been
We
copied
were
on
gonna
the
take
email.
them anyway.
Yeah, no, so I wanted to be clear that we're taking them.
All in the first page though.
Yes.
But you know, I
First
would, I
first
would like
80
to
words.
review them. I went through this pretty thoroughly yesterday, but I wanna take a look at what they sent last night.
Yeah,
One
I'm home
27
since
a.m.
1 in the morning, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, no, I didn't either, nobody did.
I mean, if it was sent a little early, I had 4 hours on the train, I could have read
I
it
know, right?
backwards and
true.
translated
Yeah.
it to Hebrew. I don't even know Hebrew.
If I know it, I
mean,
could have sent you a whole list of things to get done.
You know, it's just getting back, Steve,
my
though,
kids up
to
first.
Ivy and Jeremy's comment about, you know, if it's one tree, if it's one, you know, it's hard to find the line, cause I get it, if it's one skinny little tree on a border,
Yeah.
maybe that's not as big a deal as if it's like a big pine tree on the border, which
Yeah.
I have plenty of.
Yeah.
And I get it conceptually and what the difference is, obviously, looking at it, but I don't know if we can regulate it, because even if you did notify your neighbors, are you ever gonna say, no, you
Well,
can't take it down?
that's a good question. Do you ever say no?
They have to
Occasionally,
mitigate, but
Occasionally I've encouraged people to consider keeping a tree, but
That wasn't
Yeah,
that wasn't the answer to the question. The question was, do you ever say no?
I have on a couple of occasions where there's been really significant trees. But then,
Okay.
you know, the challenge that I have
Yeah.
is, you know, the homeowner, you know, feels it's a safety issue. You know, and do I as a town officer put the town at risk if, you know, they, you
They're on
know, feel it
notice.
strongly that it's a safety hazard. If something happens, is the town then responsible?
Next tornado when it
Yeah,
comes
so I
down.
mean, that's part of the challenge, and that's why we push so heavily to have the tree replacement requirement, because it gives a mechanism to allow the homeowner to accomplish what they need, you know, and then we're still getting some give back by, you know, requiring that they put new trees back.
I'm gonna interrupt, because we have so much stuff in very limited time, can we, is that all right if we just
Yeah, I
through
mean,
it now,
I'll
we'll-
send you some additional thoughts.
Okay.
Thank
I don't
you.
have much.
Thank you, Steve.
So next on the agenda is just authorizations for the extension and purchase of highway maintenance materials. Okay, next, authorization to award the contract for the HVAC for Chapel Performing Arts Center. This is the smaller unit.
Hey, can I ask about this? Does this come out of the capital bond, or is this in our,
Was
already
this
in our budget?
budgeted?
It's budgeted and it was in our, we have budget
Thank you,
items.
Steve.
We knew that
Thank you,
this,
Steve.
thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
This had to be, we knew that this was coming.
which,
So-
what is this?
But again, it was
It's
budgeted
the
for.
lobby unit.
I think it's in the I think
The
it is in
lobby
the budget.
unit.
I think
It's in the, yeah, it's the lobby unit for it.
If we address this already previously
But let me
budgeted for.
just put this out there, I know we need to do that, but were we looking at some point doing a whole revamp of the HVAC system?
Yeah, but that would be for the, so this is for the just the lobby unit. That would be for the auditorium unit, and that's a significant purchase.
I know.
That's, you know,
So
serious
is it
dollars.
cheaper, would it make sense to do them both together or no?
I think this is needed as soon as possible because of the leak that we've waited already a year on.
Okay.
But I guess I'm gonna follow up to that question is,
Oh, right.
when we do revamp, this will still be a good fix, it's not as if we're doing a
Yes.
temporary fix that
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
wasting money on, and then in 2 years it's gonna be changed
Yeah.
out?
Cause it's a totally different unit.
It's
Got
gonna
it.
be,
Okay.
I mean, that one's, you know, upwards of $80,000 to take a new place like that.
Yeah.
And this was original to the building.
Okay,
Cause eventually, if we're doing the big ones, we might wanna consider putting handlers on the roof or, you know,
Yeah.
alright.
okay.
Performance bond?
Performance bond for 91 Bedford Road. Okay, so fair and affordable housing compliance and enforcement. We would like to enter into a shared services agreement with Westchester County for compliance and enforcement of affordable housing in our town. So the units at Stone Creek 2 years ago came off the county's books, the main units. So the main units is at Stone Creek, and also affordable apartment, ancillary apartments for each of the units.
Why did it come off the market?
Because 25 years passed on it, and so it was, they were returned to
Market value?
market rate, and they've sold and all good to go. But the ancillary apartments underneath are still controlled under this, under fair and affordable housing, and there has to be maintenance and compliance of it. It's come to our attention that there has not been proper compliance and nor has there been enforcement. We have sent out a letter alerting the homeowners that the rental apartments are still under these guidelines and that they are rent restricted as far as what the ceilings are. But enforcement and bringing actions against the landlords and stuff like that would actually be pretty onerous for us. Westchester County will do that for us free of charge, but we just need to sign off on a resolution, just approving the shared services with them.
Done and done.
Is there any downside to doing this?
And they will take over all of our affordables going forward, so anything that's in Conifer, the 99 releases,
Good.
whatever it is, it will be the county's responsibility, not
That
ours,
is,
County's
that's,
responsibility to do what?
to enforce compliance with the
So are they
fair and affordable
inspecting
housing.
it as well?
Yes.
Yes.
That's good,
take that off our hands.
that's good. That is good.
Municipal searches, so right now, if you have a unpaid parking ticket, we don't let you take and renew your parking permit. However, if you have outstanding land use application fees and you're going to sell your property, we still allow there to be title searches and things like that going on. And so we'd like to be able to change our ordinances so that if there is an outstanding land use application, fee through zoning board, planning board, something like that, you owe us money, that we're not going to conduct those municipal searches until those
Is there
are
any
resolved.
way, Nick, that we can make even a larger sweep of this and say, if you owe the town monies in any capacity for a violation or non-payment, whatever it may be, any service, when I say any service that, and maybe we can identify those services, such as title search, such as renewing your
Parking permit, right.
You
Even
do
alarm fees,
Yeah,
and stuff
alarm,
like
you
that.
will not get, so, you owe an alarm fee, you can't renew until you pay your alarm fee.
What about signing up for rec programs? Can we let them not sign up for rec programs if they owe money?
We need the revenue.
Well, that should be the reason, they're gonna pay it, I think people will pay it, so,
Yeah, people
this could
pay
be, and this could be non-malicious, so for example, you may, and I probably wanna follow this, so your alarm goes off and you forget because it's $30 and it's $30 and you forget about it,
Parking fees also, right?
I mean,
so,
that kinda happens with the PTA, like if you wanna register your kid for a sport, it checks, and if you haven't paid your PTA fees, it adds it onto your bill
but if you're not paying your bill
automatically,
anyway.
so you can register your kid at the
right,
same time,
right,
but you have to pay the other fees.
Yeah, I think that, that we saw those numbers before for parking tickets were astronomically high,
Right, right.
even if they get paid at the end of the year. This could be a means, no matter what it is, even if I'm no longer parking in the town hall,
Yeah.
even if I'm no longer parking,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
wanna.
do we have before we
So,
make a blanket statement though, I think we'd wanna figure out what are all of the fee for service things that the town has.
Right, and
that's
right, and I would be very careful about not including unpaid taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if someone's trying to sell their house because they're underwater, we don't wanna put another roadblock in their way.
we can
And
make
so-
exceptions to
but-
that.
Yeah, but you have to, so the problem is if somebody's in financial distress,
Yes.
so they're trying to sell their house, now we don't allow there to be a title search because they haven't paid, well, the reason why they haven't paid is because they need to sell their house and now we can't sell their house because they can't get a title. You know what, I'm just
But for
leery of that.
taxes though, in that situation, if somebody's selling their house, can't the town have a lien on the
Town does
property?
have a lien,
The
but
town has
tax-
a lien, so when the property
paid.
is sold,
Yes.
the town will get paid,
Not
the
for parking,
taxes.
not for
No,
parking.
no, but the
Yes,
taxes,
yes,
so
yes,
that
yes,
can be
yes, yes.
treated differently.
Right, right.
So why don't we speak at the staff level, so identify the programs, also just make sure how feasible it is, I don't want it to be unduly burdensome, because you have to have the
Yeah,
master
right.
list and everyone's got, so I understand the issue, let's see if we can expand it and what makes sense to capture, what doesn't.
And not to take it
And how
even
it would
too
work.
far down there, but something just put in the back of your mind, there was times when we would summons people and for a non-criminal offense, obviously, to local court. And people would say, because there's no punch to it, there's no teeth to it, who cares, I'm not gonna show up, but someone's gonna pull me in and arrest me and bring me in, no. if you have an outstanding summons or notice, there needs to maybe that can flip over, you cannot register if you have an unanswered summons. Even though there's no monetary, if that forces you to at least answer.
I would never not answer a summons.
Well,
That's 'cause
sometimes you may not get it.
Yeah, that's.
Well, you
I would
probably
never
get it locally.
purposely not
Locally,
answer a
people still go
summons if I don't know
locally
about
door
it,
to door.
that's, I don't.
Why, did you not get one? I mean, like,
Nothing to do with me, I'm just saying.
you're turning red.
So, yeah, we'll look into that and then,
Yeah, that's not a fine or anything, it just forces
Right,
people
right.
to respond.
So the Q-Alert invoice, the board asked me to do a little bit of research and basically, how has the system been used in the year and a half that we've had it. And we've gotten 195 reports to our system.
Pothole.
Some of them.
I've used it like 3 times.
Garbage, debris, street repairs,
Giant tree
yeah,
that was down in
signs missing, litter problems, street lights out, tree falling across the road, obviously in storms, people will report any way they can. So,
Jill, who at the town, who on your staff sort of accompanied this consultancy when they were setting up the system and knows how to sort of manage the content behind?
well, I did it with Kira. But we
don't
were
go.
involved
We
in
were all
all,
trained on it.
yeah, we all trained on it, we were all involved in the staff level of it.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, cause we paid, there was an initial outlay to set it up.
To actually set it
And
up.
like, are there training guides that we got from them?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
all on our computer, people don't use them as much as they should, but yeah.
Cause I mean, the usage numbers are pretty low for, it doesn't cost a whole lot of money, but the usage numbers are pretty low, and I sort of feel like if we're gonna re-up, and I think I'm on board with doing that, but I would like to see us simultaneously try to, like, make a commitment to improve the content that's on there today, to do a refresh of
Okay.
what's up there. And then also try to sort of market this a little bit more and try to get folks to use it. So, it just feels like we're at a point where like, it's not quite working the way it should, and so if we're gonna recommit to it, we ought to really recommit to it.
Yeah, we'll go through it and see.
No, the problem is, again, people, like using, pothole in my Newcastle and storm damage in my
So-
Newcasastle and, I
do
mean,
we
that's.
So
Need
it's a
it
do-
then?
Yeah, then why don't
it's a- yeah,
we
it's
encourage
a-
everyone to
Well, we could
get a
it,
notice when they send something to one of those, they can tell them from now on.
I mean,
going
so
forward.
the only thing is that
Or vice
this
versa, not
comes,
up it and just have them
But
send
it could also go to
emails.
it, we could actually have the pothole go to this, like like,
no, because
gets
it
in the
has to go
system.
through the,
App, does it work that
it
way?
has to go to the app, and it goes through
Yeah,
a
but-
cloud.
I think you kill one or the
They
other.
keep- yeah. I mean, the potholes at mynewcastle.org don't cost us anything, the only thing is that those don't have analytics. So, I don't know how important that is to us one way or the other, we
Do
just
you
go
use
to
it?
the-
Does
Not-
Jerry look at reports that say these kinds of
No,
these kinds of
I,
requests took this
you know
many
what,
days to complete?
I look at them, we look at them because I'm on the
distribution list.
the distribution list, but only after X number of days do I get notified.
But
So-
are they
It's
helpful to
escalated.
us?
Well, I know if something, in other words, I get notified initially and then I get notified like there's a what's
Like
the
there's
word?
an escalation.
Thank you, that's the word, escalation, so.
If a staff doesn't answer it in 2 days, it goes to Jill and Jill then knows no one responded. But the other positive I think to this was there's mapping features that people might report and it'll give an exact location as to where our crews have to go out and fix.
Right.
Whereas the email, they might just give
Yeah,
a
I mean,
wrong address
you
or-
do have the ability to do the mapping, whether or not we've used it as much as possible. One of the things is that when we signed on for this, we had a virtual EOC program as well, which was tremendously expensive, that we walked away from, Viachi, because we were hoping that we could get buy-in from the fire departments, the school district, things like that, so that everybody would be on the system with us. And it was very clever, so it was created by a couple of guys out of Connecticut in the wake of Superstorm Sandy, when they realized that although an EOC is invaluable, you may not actually be able to be in a specific building or a specific place. So if you can't, how do you create that same support and communication network? And on paper it worked, but it was very complicated and very expensive, and we never got the buy-in. So I think this was sort of our interim step, that if we were walking away from that system and we didn't have the mapping and we didn't have the ability, could we institute something that was maybe a little bit less complicated and a little bit more user-friendly, that people could take and send snapshots of the downed tree with a mapping that the police could then have access to in the middle of a storm and be able to see what it is that somebody else is seeing.
You know, the other thing that might make this, I don't know if you've considered this, but like, would it be possible for you to have town hall staff input the requests into the system too? So, you know, you get an email that says, you know,
We do,
you get an email
we have
to
the ability
pothole
to
at
do
my
that.
Newcastle.
So in other
you
words,
could put it into the
Yes.
system and then the system's got the
we have
potholes
that.
that got.
No, so Julia does that on a number of occasions.
Oh, okay.
So when it comes from DPW,
Well, so but
DPW
does that 195 then
includes, yes,
Oh.
yes, yeah, that includes
So the
that.
usage is really low.
Yes.
Maybe, is this something we need for our town, or is it more like a New York City thing? I don't really. We'll just email
It certainly is more widely used in bigger places.
So then if it's not worth the dollar and we have other means to address these issues, then let's not waste the money.
I mean, the fact is that, you know, people like the pothole in my Newcastle and the other ones, it's easier to
We
remember,
have other
and it's
vehicles.
you know, the mobile app, you know, people don't use them. And they
Frankly-
sound good, but people don't use them.
Yeah, and I feel like if
Maybe
somebody
just take this
sends an
money.
email and that pothole is not fixed,
We're gonna
we're
hear
gonna
that.
hear it, it's not like we're not
No,
gonna know
we're-
that it's.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we answer our phones. And we.
It's like 6,500 this year?
Yeah, but you know, it's 6,500 that we put towards the
Used
website.
toward-
We know, we just had a conversation before, it's 6,500 we use for something else,
No, it's
absolutely.
7260.
And people just aren't using it, it's just that simple. And you know, and the fact is, it's good that we sort of gave, I mean, we had both, and people have shown a preference for just the emails, they're just easier. They're just easier.
So then let's,
I mean, the other thing that we
Unless anyone has
discussed
a
last
strong
time around is that since we are now looking at rebuilding our website, there will be a CRM behind our website
That will allow us, and then maybe we
that
could.
could potentially allow us to build a new app off of that, so that there's a single content base that's
Because I have to
behind
tell you
both
that one of the
them.
things that Hewlett wanted to do was they wanted to integrate our
Right.
website with this, so they wanted to take and then
Right.
build our website, but we had just built a website, so it's like,
so I think we should consider saying goodbye to,
Yeah, cause we could have, to at least put a button on the website, you know, report a pothole, report, and
and it does the same
it
thing,
goes to,
mapping, right.
And by the way, when we tell these people we wanna cancel, they may come back and
Well, at the very least, they
reduce
shouldn't have raised their rates this year.
the price. They may definitely come back and say, I mean, because they set it up, at this point, you know,
they should look at how much we're using
how much
it and
support are we
say-
even asking them? I mean, whatever
Yeah.
money they're getting from us is like icing on the cake.
Yeah, okay, so I will talk to them and tell them that the board is not,
Not inclined
Not
at this
feeling it.
time.
okay, do you wanna hold this until, Sabrina comes back, or will you come to, yeah?
the Minko Dam you're referring to?
Yeah, it was just, support of a
Just the
CFA application.
Oh, yeah, that was fine.
Ivy, you okay with that?
So do we have the application or?
No, she's going to take and do the application, but
Just wants to know
she
what
wanted
we're-
direction from the board, is this definitely a project that you guys wanna proceed with, and I said
Well,
to her,
We have
have
to.
we done
We have
the
to study
mapping
it
of
in
what
order-
the grant opportunities are and compared them to the?
she is comfortable that this fits squarely within a grant category and would be ranked very high. The only issue
Yeah.
is that we have gone out for a different grant, the estuary, but we're
Yeah.
not gonna hear about
Yeah.
that, and we're
Yeah,
not gonna
yeah,
hear
no,
about that in
I
time.
saw that email back
Yeah.
from her. I just, when we spoke about this last week, Sabrina basically said, our staff has the bandwidth to do 3 of these,
Right.
right? And so like, I think we all feel that this rises up to be one of the 3 of them.
Yes.
But I just wanna make sure that we're being mindful of the fact that, okay, if we choose this one, then we
Then
have
there's
2
one that
more,
we're not
2 more
picking.
slots
Right.
available to
And this
us.
is one that, whether we get it or not, is something that's a viable.
Yeah, and we need to do this.
Yeah.
So I know we need to do it,
Took it off
it's
the
a
pot.
viable option, the grant is something that's, whether we get it or not, it's
Yes.
a possible grant.
Yeah, and the thing is it doesn't
Do
take a
it.
lot of
Yes.
energy because she's already
Well,
done a grant on the basis of it.
Cause it's a big nut.
Yeah.
If we feel like we'll be able to make it back.
I mean, the other thing is, the other thing is that, you know, she talks about the fact that her staff has the bandwidth to do 3, but the lion's share of this application has been
It's already
done.
done because we just did it
Right,
for the
so I
estuary.
do,
Yeah.
I am questioning is
Okay.
whether or not the 3 includes this or not, so I
Yeah.
would wanna ask her, but we need this money because we have to do the study. So
Right.
one way or the other,
Yeah.
you know, that $50,000.
It doesn't feel like a particularly contentious issue for
No, no, no,
us,
no.
like,
This is an easy one. Yeah, the next is just a revised resolution, we actually just got the term incorrect, it's going to be a 2-year term for Sustainability Advisory Board, okay? There's a request for a street opening permit, a bond release, taxi cabs. Let me just see if there's anything else, otherwise we will start on it. Okay, taxi cabs, so interesting, I reached out to Bedford to find out what they do. And they gave us a copy of their law. So they actually currently have 10 different cab companies at their train station. And they,
Hogs.
huh?
Cab hogs.
Is that what it's called?
No,
He's saying they're hogging all the cabs.
Yeah, I
Cab
guess so.
hogs.
Yes, they are, so, they don't seem to have an issue, they require the cab companies to be registered through Westchester County and vetted through them. They then went out to bid for a vehicle inspection contract vendor within town. And so the car that they're driving has to be inspected and approved by whoever whoever won their bid. And then they charge them a nominal fee to be there and
Wait,
that's
who
it.
inspects it?
What's the nominal
So in other words,
Someone in our municipality inspects it?
yes,
No,
so in
like a
other
gas
words, so they went to the gas stations.
But if they're inspected by the state and the county, why nobody,
the individual is, but not the car.
Well, your car has to be inspected anyway.
I understand, but so they
Why do they have to inspect the car?
to make sure that
I mean, it
it
seems like we're-
passes
we're-
more than inspection,
Do we have
they,
a higher standard in the county or the state or whatever it may
Yeah,
be? So
right,
Yeah.
why are we doing this? That seems like you're
the
just trying
town,
to
the
get money.
expense, the cabs from time to time on the complaint of any person regarding the things, but that the town clerk may refuse to issue a taxi cab permit if the licensed vehicle is found to be unfit or unsuited for public patronage.
Okay, that's fine, but
So
why
just
does it have to
because,
go to the town?
just because you have brakes, and you bring your car in for inspection.
I understand that, so if
Question
there's
is,
an
there may
issue.
be duplicity because the county tax
Yeah.
limousine commission may be looking at some of this.
Yeah, and then what about an Uber? Does an Uber have to comply with that too? I mean, so it just seems like it's a
that would
little,
be impossible.
yeah, right, it seems a little uneven, not even handed here.
Right.
Well, so my question to you is do you wanna take a look at their model and
Yeah.
see whether or not
And we
we
can
want to
mandate
tweak
they
it
have to
for
get,
us?
we can
know that
mandate
we
that
want-
it means, we can mandate that they have to get inspection if there's a complaint, but they should be able to go to whomever they believe. It shouldn't be like monopoly of 3 or 4 places in the town of Newcastle that can do it. As much as I'd like to give them business, it just doesn't seem fair.
I'm more concerned
Or
about the
legal.
insurance, like, do they have
Yeah,
something
but
that
that's
requires
through,
them to
that's
file?
through Westchester County.
County.
But that's where they're
Commission.
allowing them they're giving them like a spot to
Right.
stand. Like
Exactly.
an Uber's gonna show up, we're not giving them a preferred spot to wait.
So we're saying as a caveat to having this spot, or as a condition to
Yeah,
having
it's
this
like
spot, you
$75
have
a
to
year.
then,
It's nominal.
I mean, that you could do.
you have to use our town to, a trusted merchant in town?
I'm not seeing the connection.
I don't.
Right, so I
Right.
I would rather just have them file a certificate of insurance with us. They're gonna have a spot in our parking lot.
Right.
Even if it's $75 a year, they should have to file a certificate of insurance with us, just like when we do an event.
I don't know, I mean, we're talking about taking on board a service that we had previously contracted out. I mean, you know, we were paying a taxi company to have a taxi service, and now we're talking about taking that on and making it a town responsibility, like you're gonna
No, we're
have
just.
taxi medallions, you're gonna.
You're gonna take on, sorry, it's town clerk.
I know,
We're just gonna-
no, it's just, no, I don't think that, I think it's so that they can lease the spot.
We're just gonna leave spots instead of a taxi stand,
But you're
really.
gonna issue taxi permits, I mean, that's.
Right, so $75 a year when they come in
It's
with
not a
their.
taxi permit, I think it's a space permit.
It's a space, if they can prove that they are vetted and approved by Westchester County Taxi and Limousine Service, that they can have a spot at our train station
Yes,
for $75 a year.
They've already done
Up
the
to
due
a certain
diligence,
number of
just gonna
spots, we're
then
gonna
turn
do
that
a
material over to
lottery?
the town,
Yeah.
but the town is not requiring any additional there's no additional requirement from the town.
because we'd like to have cabs stay.
But we still have to address where we're putting them, how many we're gonna allow.
Yeah, and then what are we gonna
I
do,
don't see
do
10.
a lottery?
10 seems
We're
like a
not gonna
lot.
have like, Mount Kisco has a huge, it's like
Why
a,
can't we just set
it's
up,
like a
can't
party
we bid it,
in the-
can't we bid it in the sense that it's a silent
is.
auction?
They all hang out.
Or with the minimum, so typically it's
You're going-
$75.
Yeah, you're going to bid it, but the thing is.
No, I'm saying, instead of saying it's $75,
Right,
and
Put a minimum level to bid it up.
yes, let the market bear it, and we have a minimum, so if someone pays $1.50,
right,
great.
but Pleasantville just did that and they got no takers, so that's my only.
Different.
But that's
saying a
No.
closed bid, like,
No.
give us your highest offer.
Yeah, if you wanna give us submit.
But that's what a bid is. Oh, to
No.
have one monopoly here?
No, we're saying it's $75, right?
Right.
What I'm saying, instead of saying it's $75, say, if you would like to have a permit here, it's a, there's
much
a
will
minimum.
you give me?
Here's the, you have, as long as you have the right requirements and permits that from the
Mm-hmm.
town, licensure, you can make a bid for a space. And we're not gonna tell them what that is worth, we're not gonna tell them it's $75,
allowed
cause
to
people
do
will
that?
bid for $150,
Yes, but-
$200.
But that's what we do on contracts in general, when we want
you're-
something from someone.
But here we're
we
saying
don't tell them.
75.
Individual, it's not a company, it's not necessarily a company.
As long as they suit, as long as they meet our requirements,
And
which
then what
may
do we
be.
say, the top 5 win, or whatever it may be?
Yeah.
Well, whatever it is, yeah, I'd rather, someone may think it's worth $250, someone may think
I
it's worth
don't,
$100.
just don't want there to be any dissension between, like,
Taxes. That's gonna work for 1 year.
You're in essence auctioning off a right for someone to use the town
Right.
property of a taxi, of a train station.
Yeah,
You certainly have the ability to do that.
why not?
Don't you think that's only gonna work for a year, and then they're all gonna talk to
Fine.
each other, how much do
well,
you
there
pay,
is a
how much do you pay?
non-inclusive bidding certification.
Yeah, which they'll violate, but nonetheless, I mean, we know what they're willing to pay at year one, and people are gonna pay $225, $275, $400, $300, whatever it is, then we say, okay, we're not Bedford.
But we could also give
Want-
more preferable parking, like the spot that's like closest to the stairs.
That's right, yes, if the 500 bid gets the closest, the 400 bid gets the, what, this is like,
Certainly
this
work
is like,
something out.
We could do a raffle for.
Well, do we wanna do, but we need to do minimum standards, because they need to be vetted by
I can check
Westchester.
because I don't know that if.
We need new
Westchester
speakers.
traffic-
Who wants
they can rename the walls, like
Yeah, I don't know
the
if that's-
Joe's Taxi and the
Aren't you the
Theater.
attorneys?
Yeah, but that's from 1984.
And then when they're there, they
sending
can,
me something,
Okay,
and the new
Orwell,
so-
like 1984?
They can
Same,
charge-
but we
Wow,
are
that's
trying to
great.
figure it out.
yeah.
Like Rick Astley, like 3 years before Rick Astley.
That's right.
Yeah,
and so the rates are set by the town. In Bedford's agreement.
right, so it's like a nominal
Bedford's
fee, it's
code.
like $75 or $25, it's
No,
like
no, no, the
nothing.
rates
No, no,
that
no,
the
not the-
taxis can charge.
No.
All taxi cab rates to be charged to passengers for hire within the town should be fixed by the operator.
Yep.
Oh, it should be on
File.
file with the
Yeah.
town clerk,
No,
okay.
they don't do, yeah, because I said to her, you know, how much do people charge and do you get complaints and how does that work? And she said to me, well, you know, we ask them to put it on file with us, but we get it, sometimes we don't. Right. But
So
I
how
think it's
involved do
really-
you wanna be with
Yeah.
regulating taxis? I mean, Westchester County does it to some level. You'd have to see
I don't
what.
wanna regulate.
I don't wanna regulate it, but as long as they have the permits and the application, or pardon me,
Somewhat.
licensure.
So can we require the
I mean, I
county
do
taxi
like
cab
the idea
license
of
by
them
Westchester
having
County Taxi
rates
Limo?
on file,
Well, yeah, we should, because I don't want.
cause you don't want them to be like, they
Yeah.
charge, like Uber last night coming out of the city, they were charging people like $1,000. You don't
Yep.
wanna have to, you don't wanna have
They have
those
surge
kinds,
rates.
you don't wanna have surge rates on the taxis we're allowing here.
I do feel like it's sort of important for you guys to look at it though and determine whether it's something that you think you can take on. Or how much work you think it is, does that, I mean,
It all
there's,
depends
there's,
how-
there's,
Well, it all
there's
depends.
person
What
hours
can we
here.
do? Right.
So
So
let's,
we look at it.
Nick, yeah, let's have council look at it and see what kind of requirements we can put in and what kind of onus is going to be on the town clerk's office to, or me to take an administrative.
I think
Okay?
it's pretty nominal once you get it done.
I-
Can we just get the,
I think if the license and the permits
Yeah.
are going to be, you know, based upon somebody else's, you know,
Westchester's done
rules
the
and
homework.
regulations and
Right.
you've already, somebody else has already vetted them, then I'm okay with that.
And
But
then
if
how
we're
many park-
vetting them, an issue.
How many parking permits do we do, 1,500? I mean, this is
Yeah,
literally like another
five,
15
No,
permits.
3,000.
We do a
Okay,
bond.
3,000, this is literally,
To every,
I mean, how many,
this is
five,
like
six,
another
or seven?
15 permits,
At
pretty
best,
much.
most, I mean, where are we gonna stick those cars with?
Depends what you're doing, you then
We could
require
do it.
inspections, that they provide you proof of the inspection, so it
And
depends
the-
what level
and
of
tax
requirement.
Right, but if the county's
Every driver's
requiring it,
different than our
County's
residents.
requiring
we
it,
don't
they have
need
to
it.
give us their,
Yeah, we'll just- we'll
their
replicate
new
it, duplicate it.
paperwork every year, then we don't have to worry about that.
if anybody can do it,
Okay.
you can.
Chicken,
So do
taxes.
Chicken.
What's
Where does it end?
We do need a payment of claims, resolution.
First chickens, now taxes.
can I just resolve the?
But I do think, I mean, as much as I like Jeremy's idea about the bidding and trying to get as much money, no, I'm serious, I think the main thing is, you gotta get taxes here, I mean, we just have to.
Yes.
And I think can we do the
As many taxes as
207C?
possible.
I move to approve the payment of claims in the amount of
Yeah, and I think that-
$465,114.68, listed in the summary pre-check writing report and detailed voucher detail report, each prepared on May 11th of this fine year. Checks will be issued and mailed to each claimant listed therein on Wednesday, May 16th, also 2018.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
The truth is also, you know, we're gonna hear complaints, there's no taxes, we're gonna be.
We need taxes, I rely on it, I know.
No, we need to.
And then-
Wait,
and
one
then-
other thing I want with the,
Okay,
before we
you know,
get out of here.
spot for the
Approval to
closest
sub-
spot for the person who bid the most is that, but maybe they don't have the
They
nicest
did the
car.
payment of claims.
Maybe they
Sorry.
charge a higher rate. So they're charging the town a lower
The
rate,
Triad
they're charging-
Group?
Try it.
Yeah, I move to hire the Triad Group in connection with the town's 207C administration in form satisfactory to council. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
And
you wanna do something for paint the town
I
purple?
don't know what to say. I move to authorize the town to declare Friday, May 18th, paint the town purple day in recognition of the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life, and encourage everyone to wear purple and all the other things set forth in the email that I sent earlier this week. Second.
Don't worry about it. I'm not sure what to do. Before I favor this,
Before you say
please
second.
explain a little more,
There was
elaborate.
lots of purple things.
Oh, there's an allowance for.
It's an expenditure of funds, is it?
No,
okay,
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no.
Who seconded that? I did.
And then we do, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Even though we don't know
There's no
technically.
expenditure of funds.
Everybody wear purple,
Encouraging paint-
everybody wear purple, that's
paint,
all.
yeah.
And we'll put something in the
On
news.
Friday, not on Saturday.
Right, it starts
Friday.
Saturday, so we're
Yeah.
gonna do it Friday to encourage
Alright.
everyone to come
I
Saturday.
move to adjourn this here meeting, and I will see everybody, if not sooner, on May 29th. And to our fans at home, thank you.
To our fans,
Everyone who's out of their day to
To
work.
watch us.
to our fans.
Okay, do we need to adjourn? Am I shutting?
Yes.
Well, we didn't do all in favor. I moved to adjourn.
Oh,
All in
second.
favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.